Hey all, Rometown Girl here, wishing all my mamas out there a very, very happy Mother's Day. And being that this is my first Mother's Day without my mom, because she just passed at Christmas, I wanted to take today to share a little bit about how she chose to leave this world, because it's not the way you normally do it. So I know death can be a really uncomfortable subject for some people, so if that's you, this is not the video for you to watch. You could just jump to the end and see the really cool little tribute video I did of my mom. But for those of you who can kind of make the leap to hearing about it from a more spiritual and conscious way of dying, I think you'll find this really interesting. So first, let me explain my shirt. So I myself am not a Lakers fan. My mother, however, biggest Lakers fan ever. So the story of how that started is kind of funny because my mother was really looking for something to bond with my brother. He knows that they'd always kind of have a common thing to talk about. So she got herself all educated about basketball and the Lakers. And then I don't know what happened, but somewhere it took a wrong turn and she went off the cliff. Her license plate said, "You go Lakers," Lakers wallet, Lakers bag, Lakers clothes, all things Lakers. They had season tickets. Of course, she loved Kobe more than I think me and my brother. And it's probably a good thing that she passed just a little bit before he did, because I think she probably would have been inconsolable if she was still on this earth when Kobe passed. Anyway, one of the things my family did is we went through her Lakers clothes and we all picked something. And every year at Christmas, we're gonna wear our Laker gear in honor of her, to remember her on Christmas. So a big part of why I want to share my mom's death story with you is because if you have the opportunity to create something similar in your own life, it truly leaves behind a special legacy for those that are still here. So let me tell you a little bit about conscious dying. Things kind of all started about mid-October. My mother was in New Orleans with my stepdad. They traveled a lot, and she wasn't really used to their food, and she kind of had a bout of what she thought was food poisoning, and she had to stay in the room for a couple days. I think reflecting back, we all kind of know now that that was really the first time her symptoms revealed themselves and how extreme they were. Once she came home, she kind of had extended nausea that never went away, and so she started getting weaker and weaker because she really wouldn't eat much. And after about a month, they finally identified it as stage 4 bile duct cancer. And so I headed home a couple weeks after that. By the time I got home, she was just getting weaker and weaker from not eating much. And I arrived the day before her first chemotherapy treatment. So we all went to the doctor, and the doctor took one look at her and said that he would only be willing to move forward with chemotherapy on Monday if she would go be in the hospital over the weekend to get, I don't know, intravenous stuff and build her strength up. And once she went into the hospital, she never came back out. Truth is, she never was strong enough to have that next chemotherapy treatment. So for about the first week in the hospital, it was craziness up and down. She had this septic fever, and then her heart arrhythmia was going. Just every day was something, up and down, up and down. And I kept my mouth shut, but I had done a lot of research on bile duct cancer before I got home. So I kind of already knew that her chances weren't good. I saw that only 2% of people who have bile duct cancer get enough. You don't really get remission. You slow it down. You can't really stop it. But it gets slowed down enough that maybe you might live another 5 years. So I knew that was probably the best case scenario. And I also knew that only 2% of people have that happen. And here she had been like 6 weeks, 8 weeks of not eating much. And so I didn't want to be a Debbie Downer or a negative Nancy, but I kind of went home knowing that this was probably gonna be my last time with my mom. But she fought the good fight, I think mainly for my stepdad and my brother. So she made the decision to go on hospice, and then was also encouraged to stay in the hospital rather than going home. And basically when you go on hospice, they just, take you off all medication, take you off all machines, and they just make you super duper comfortable and allow your body to just shut down. And because she had already become so weak and had gone so long without sustenance, they didn't think it would be very long, which she was also concerned about, like, how long is this gonna take? Because she was still, conscious in her mind, just really weak and not feeling well in her body, that allowed her to tell us exactly how she wanted her funeral, her burial, her memorial service. And I gotta tell you, I know lots of people don't do anything like that, but it was an absolutely precious, magical, and amazing thing to get to go through with your loved one that's dying. So let me tell you why passing on Christmas Day was sort of significant. Now, I was raised Jewish. We weren't particularly religious, and we really celebrated all the holidays, even Easter and Christmas. We just did them more secularly. So Easter was about the Easter Bunny and See's candy baskets, and Christmas was about Santa Claus and stockings and a beautiful tree. But my mother always had a thing about Christmas. And even as a little girl, she tried to get my Eastern European great-grandma to help celebrate it. And there's a story once where she put up a sock, a stocking, and kind of did her best to explain to my grandma Minnie what was supposed to happen. And of course, she didn't get it. And when my mother got up in the morning, my grandma Minnie had put an onion and a potato in her stocking. So bless her heart for trying. But once my mom was a mama of her own, she was all about Christmas. Every year we had a gorgeous tree, and I mean, my mom would do designer trees. They would rival department store trees, and every year would be a different theme and color scheme. And what we would do on Christmas, since the whole world's closed anyway, right? Doesn't matter what religion you are. We would have this beautiful tree, and all our family and friends would come over, and we would exchange gifts, and then we would have the traditional breakfast, the traditional Christmas breakfast of lox, bagels, cream cheese, and blintzes. And that's what we did every year. And it's kind of interesting because that's a lot of the items she wanted to have served at her memorial service. She wanted lox, bagels, and cream cheese, rare roast beef, Caesar salad, chocolate brownies, assorted petitfours, grilled vegetables, Jordan almonds. That was an unusual one. I guess my mom had been foregoing Jordan almonds most of her life so she could stay skinny. Fresh fruit, no strawberries. None of us know what that one was. And blintzes. Don't know if there's a correlation why those were faves, that it was all right after Christmas, but that's my mom. So let's talk about the burial. You know how lots of people like to be in their Sunday best, right? Dressed up to the nines? Yeah, not my mom. It'll come as no surprise that she wanted to be buried in her Laker gear. So I guess there was a championship shirt that was really important to her. That's what she wanted to wear. And then we found this really pretty one that had lots of bling. It said Lakers and bling. So we put that one over her. And she just wanted to be buried in comfy pants, no shoes, just socks. And she had this big blanket that she loved, and she wanted that pulled up around her. And she had this stuffed zebra because another love of her life was Africa. And that was her dream trip that she did go on. And her house was decorated in mostly African motif. Anyway, she had this stuffed zebra that she had had for years, and she wanted that with her. And so basically my mom was creating a scenario of going to sleep. That's how she saw death. And she wanted to be comfy and warm and have her favorite things on and around her. So that was a really interesting insight, that that's how she pictured death, was going to sleep. And then of course there was picking out the casket. And again, we didn't have to think of what we thought she would like. She told us. And being that she loves all things African, there was a wood one that kind of had darker, knottier wood, and it kind of, you know, it was the closest we were going to get to something that kind of looked more African in nature. So that was the one she wanted. And then there was the memorial service. And my mother didn't want anybody to see her how she was in the hospital, and it pained a lot of family and friends, but she was adamant about it. And trust me, we thought about like sneaking people in after she was on the morphine, because we thought, hey, she won't know, but we didn't want to disrespect her wishes. It was very painful, but my mom was such a little firecracker and so vibrant. I guess it was really important to her that she really didn't want anybody to see her so kind of physically beat down with all these tubes and wires and stuff. So instead, she dictated a message that she wanted read at her funeral. And then my stepdad Joel took it a step further and found this wonderful picture of her from her trip in Africa, and he put her message on there, and then we gave them to everybody at the funeral. You know, we knew that wasn't going to make up for getting to come and sit with her and say goodbye to her and hold her hand, but it was the best we could do to try to let everyone know that even though she wouldn't let them come to the hospital, that, you know, it had nothing to do with how much she loved them. And then there's the headstone, which I'm sure will be of no surprise, that unlike everyone else who puts their name and then it says like beloved wife and mother and this and that, right? Yeah, no, my mom didn't want that. Not my mom. My mother's request for her headstone be that it say her name and her, you know, birth and death date, and then Lakers fan forever, exclamation point. Yep, that's my mom. And looking forward, I don't imagine that Christmas is going to be a sad time. I think it's going to be a time to reflect on all those fun Christmas memories. And of course, we're all gonna don our Laker gear in her honor. That's my mom's death story. And I share that with you mostly out of a sense of wanting to let you know that there is this unusual path that people can take regarding their own death. And if it's not too weird or scary, it's really beautiful to tell your loved ones how you envision passing and what you want to wear and what you want said at your service and who you want any special belongings to go to and what they want on their headstone. It not only takes the guesswork out for those having to make those decisions, but oh, they give such beautiful insight into the mind and heart of the person who's gonna be leaving. So I know this sounds weird, but I highly recommend it. Here's a little footage of my mom, so you can get a little taste. Oh, I'm making a video of you becoming my 900th subscriber.
Has it started yet?
Okay, now do you see the little subscribe button?
I want to see if I want to subscribe. Watch something first. So do I get some kind of prize? This is supposed to encourage people to do this? So all mothers, don't watch this because you're not going to sleep at night. So how do you like it?
No, there's a thumbs up.
I don't see it.
So, Mom, what did you think of the first video you watched?
I think you should have stayed in your house.
Life is more interesting getting stuck in washes and everything else.
What
and
you're not telling these people who are watching is that you call us at 2 in the morning and said, "Oh, I'm so glad you're up." We're not up. You woke us up.
Do you want to say anything about what you think about your daughter being on YouTube and the video or anything like that?
I think that's awesome. I still would prefer you to be in a house. But the nice thing is that it seems to be, even in this desolate area, people around to help you. There's angels around, so I don't have to lose too much sleep.